Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, our summer backlog attack grinds on with Alcahest and Persona 5 Strikers.
Yeah. Doing a lot of grinding in the Strikers?
No, I would not say it is particularly grindy.
Oh, okay.
No.
Wasn't sure what to make of that. I assume, Persona games are a little grindy.
Yeah. A little bit. No, just like late summer, just the grind.
Oh, you're just talking about in general, the grind of summer.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Summer officially ends Labor Day. Everybody has roughly 11, 12 days of summer left to, grind every bit of pleasure out of it you possibly can. Yes, yes. Get it done.
No more grinding after Labor Day is what they always say.
Pumpkin spice latte season is upon us.
They keep trying to get me to buy Halloween candy at the store. I'm like, no.
Are they having a lot of trouble with that? Are you not buying?
No, because it's August. And it's 90 degrees out. So by the time I get it home, it'll just be a bag of chocolate soup, which doesn't sound great.
No. Yeah. I don't think a lot of that candy makes it to Halloween, but...
Yeah, talk to me again in October. We got more than a month to go. Just calm down.
Yeah, my local Starbucks has the big countdown tracker in the lobby of X number of days to pumpkin spice latte season. And I'm like, you guys know it's 96 degrees outside, right?
You get an iced one.
I'm not ready. It's too soon. I want a hoodie with my pumpkin spice latte. And it's just, no, I just can't possibly wear a hoodie yet.
Well, you could get, a cut-off hoodie vest
Sure.
or something. I don't know. I don't know what the summer equivalent of a hoodie is.
A short sleeve mesh hoodie.
Yeah, yes. The just wearing that, drinking your iced pumpkin spice latte, what could be cooler than that?
Always, yeah. A tank top with a hood. No, I don't know. Yeah.
Just the meshed hoodie.
I have so many of them in my closet.
Yeah.
I do want to say happy 600th episode to you, DJ.
Oh, thank you. Happy 600th episode to you, too.
It's quite a milestone. I don't know how many video game podcasts make it to 600, but it feels kind of exciting, right?
It feels like it should be. That's a very large number.
Yeah, that is a huge number.
I was thinking, show's been going on for quite a long time. We're running out of ideas of what to do for these milestones. 600 feels like it should be a big deal, but at the same time, I'm just talk to me when we get to episode 1000. But that got me thinking, have any weekly podcasts even made it to episode 1000 yet? Has there been that long? Has there even been that much time since podcasting was invented? I don't know if there has been.
Weekly podcasts? Not
weekly, yeah.
Off the top of my brain, I like Mark Maron's WTF is over 1,000, but he does 2 a week.
Well, yeah, no, just weekly stuff. If you're doing a daily show, then you just knock that out in 2 or 3 years. But
sure.
You do one show a week. Most of the shows I listen to are just weekly. I don't think there have been 20 years since the first podcast came out. So,
yeah, I'm not sure.
People have yet to hit 1,000.
Before we recorded tonight, I Googled what is the longest running video game podcasts, and people have opinions on that, but most of them go back to 2008 and stuff like that. And I'm like,
I feel like we're
pretty close.
I don't think you can have an opinion on that. I think it comes down to facts.
Well, I mean, it's not like there's like somebody documenting this. I don't know. I mean, podcasting is a little bit like the Wild West, unless you've somehow found the secret sauce to making money off of it. People just sort of do it sometimes in obscurity. And so it was a thread on some forum that I found was like, what's the longest running video gaming podcast? Mm-hmm. And people were like, how about this one? How about this one? I started listening to this one in 2008. So yeah, I think it does not go back much further than when we started, if ever. So yeah, there were a couple in there. There was the Giant Bombcast. There was the Cheap Ass Gamer, the CADcast. Those are in kind of high upper triple digits at this point, but I think we're certainly in a small club, I think.
Of just the longest running shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we are in there. Who knows? There have definitely been a lot of gaming shows that I listen to that have ended while we've been doing this show.
Yes.
I don't know what to think about that. I was like, well, we made it.
Yes. Yeah. Or certainly if you think of like the output of things like Polygon or IGN or Kotaku, like all of those hosts have changed to different companies, and OneUp closed and they became employees at Kotaku and et cetera, et cetera. So
plus, all of those folks, they cycle through hosts more regularly than we do.
Right. And they've certainly bounced around from show to show a lot longer too. So yeah, I don't know. This is hardly a thing that is in its infancy by any means, but it does not feel particularly well like documented. I'm not sure who like the official timekeeper is for video game podcasts, but
somebody just go to the iTunes store, subscribe to every podcast, and then just click the little thing that's like sort by date or whatever, and then you'll find out.
All right. We'll get our community on that.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Easy.
So you may find that our observation of episode 600 is a little low key this week. It falls right in the middle of our summer backlog attack, and we don't want to sort of deviate from our kind of weekly focus on that. So we're just going to call it out. We're going to do a virtual high five with each other and thank our listeners for hanging with us for so long. Those of you who've been around since the beginning, or just discovered us last week, we are eternally grateful for you. You are in a lot of ways the reason we continue to do this thing week after week for 600 episodes. And yeah, maybe we'll come back and find a more proper way to observe this thing once we get clear of the backlog attack.
Yeah. Special shout out to that guy who has been going through every episode in chronological order. So hopefully he enjoys this episode like 5 years from now, whenever he gets
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's always sort of, I don't know, weird to know that those old episodes 1, 2, and 3 and stuff like that are still out there on the internet to be heard by anyone should they seek them out.
That is kind of a frightening thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, that you can do that if that's something you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Should we scrub those from the internet? Is that what you're suggesting?
Nothing on the internet is truly gone forever. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's fine. It's fine that it's out there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm proud of our work. I think it's cool that we've done this thing, even when we haven't always done it well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go with that.
I mean, it's distinctly possible episode 601 could be a stinker too. They're not all great, so well, hope not. We try. We'll try to put some effort into this thing and hopefully keep it entertaining, but they can't all be winners.
I feel like they're mostly winners, right?
I think so too. Yes.
Yeah. They're all winners, actually. I'm just going to admit that. All great.
I think you and I have a good sense of it too, because we sort of wrap up the episode and hit stop on the recording, and one of us will go, "That was one of the good ones. That was a really good one."
That was one of the rare exceptions.
Right, exactly. I can't remember the last time we did a good one. No, mostly I feel like without fail we hang up the phone. That's not what we do. That's not how we make this. We push stop on the recording and go, "That was a good show."
Yeah.
So.
It's rare that we finish recording and I'm just like, oh, that one was terrible.
Yeah.
Let's not publish that one.
Scrap that. Our entire reputation will be ruined if we put that on the internet.
Oh, man.
So
cool.
Happy
600.
Yay. What is the official anniversary gift for 600th wedding anniversary?
I was just thinking that. I was like, I don't know what it is. What's 500 anniversaries after gold or platinum or whatever?
Frankincense.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm fresh out of frankincense, so perfect timing.
The 600th wedding anniversary gift is traditionally falafel.
Okay. Well, that's great because I'll probably be hungry after this.
I happen to have some right here.
Well, now I feel underprepared.
So how goes your backlog attack, DJ?
Oh, it's going great. I don't know if I'm getting ahead by saying this, but I've finished both of the games I played so far.
Ah, nice.
So in that sense, I feel like it's going very well. Although I'm a little worried about this next one coming up, but we'll get to that when when the time comes.
Finished as in the sense credits rolled. You did the happy credits. Dance at the end. Nice. Ah, cool.
Yeah, Wolfenstein had that nice sort of 90s PC, not really credits, but just the end screen with a lot of text on it. This is what B.J. Blazkowicz did after the war or whatever, or what happened. But then,
was there a thank you for playing in there somewhere? I love a good thank you for playing our game.
I don't remember if it had a thank you for playing. It was see you again in episode 2 or episode 4 or whatever came after that. But then I also rolled credits on Alcahest this week. So feeling good about that.
Cool. I don't finish a lot of games. You know that. Our listeners know that.
Sure.
I'm really, really good at starting them. I'm really bad at finishing them generally. But I finished. What did I finish? Resident Evil Biohazard.
Oh. Did it get even grosser in the final hours of the game?
It sort of reached kind of a peak grossness, and then it became a little silly.
Oh.
Yeah. It gets a little wild with some of the boss battles. I think the game is strongest when it's kind of you versus one of the members of the family being stalked through the house, trying to hide, being evasive. It feels very
and they're
kind
just
of
like a person.
Yeah, and then it gets perpetually more goofy.
Okay,
as
in a Resident Evil sort of way, or how?
Kinda, yeah. As the scale of the villain of the boss becomes grander.
Okay.
The big grand finale, no spoilers here, boss is hysterical.
Well, now I kind of want you to spoil it.
I mean, I'll clue you in after we push stop if you want, but I won't spoil it.
I can go look it up on YouTube.
A fairly recent game, I guess, but I won't ruin it for any of our listeners. But yeah, it's genuinely quite goofy. I was, it was fine. It was a fine ending. I don't regret finishing it. You get a little binary choice near the end. I had read that there were 2 endings to this thing, but not what they were or how they were going to play out. So I tried really hard to kind of make what felt like the unpopular ending. This seems like a weird choice. I don't think anybody would pick this. I did that one deliberately thinking I could watch the normal one on the internet somewhere. And I don't regret my choice. It was good. It was satisfying. I feel like it was the right way to wrap it up.
Okay.
But yeah, it very much kind of, as I speculated last week, I kept waiting for this to turn into a Resident Evil game. And yeah, in the last 5 minutes, it very much did.
Okay. You mean somebody handed you a machine gun?
Oh, there were machine guns, definitely. Yes. Yeah, I had a machine gun. There's definitely some Resident Evil things.
Oh, I won't say any more than games.
Sure, that kind of creep in the very final moments. Okay. Not in a giant way, not in oh no, surprise, you're in an underground test facility by the Umbrella Corp. Nothing quite so on the nose, but yeah, and it's there. It's very much you sort of see the connection kind of at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not at the end of the credits, it says developed by Capcom, who, if you look up on the internet, they also developed all the rest of the Resident Evil games.
No, it's definitely a little more overt than that.
Okay.
Now that you say that, though, I don't recall watching to the end of the credits. I think I may.
What about the bonus scene?
I wonder, is there a scene? Did I miss some content in Resident Evil? Russ Greeno from our Discord has told me that there is some DLC for this, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I won't get to that sort of obviously in the confines of our summer backlog attack, but I'm curious. But yeah, I don't know. I felt sort of my love for it kind of waning a little bit at the end. It felt it's just sort of increasingly less scary and more kind of more increasingly tedious, I think. I've still finished it. I still rolled credits on this thing. But yeah, definitely it was a little bit of a labor of love by the end.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
600 episodes in, you finally finished the game.
Yay, finally finished. I was going to say finally finished a Resident Evil game, but I usually do finish those because generally, at least recently, I've been sort of co-oping them with other people and they make me finish them. So,
drag you over the finish line.
Sure. This is the first one I finished by myself in quite a long time. So I feel good about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can play that 4 remake.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way to go next. But despite my complaining, this is a really good Resident Evil game. I think it's a really scary Resident Evil game. It has its rough edges. Some of the character design and graphics can be a little janky sometimes. Some of the writing is a little hysterical. But I think it does what it wants to do, which from my perspective is just to shake up what you sort of expect from a Resident Evil game and kind of, start over from scratch in a lot of ways. And so I give him a lot of credit for kind of sticking the landing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your comment about the boss just made me think about, like, pretty much every boss in the Resident Evil series. I have a lot of questions about what their plan is. Because I know they want to infect the whole world with the virus or whatever.
Sure.
But, you're getting in their way and then they just end up injecting themselves inevitably. And they get like this whole mutated arm and sometimes an eyeball grows out of their head. And I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you going to do like 20 minutes from now? Like, you're just going to have a gross mutated arm the rest of your life. That's going to get in the way of stuff.
Yeah. People have a real hard time sort of hearing your message about how great the virus is if you have a giant mutated arm.
Yeah, the whole time they're talking about like, oh, look at how incredible I am now. And like, man, you're just like, you're not going to be able to go out in public anymore with that thing.
Exactly. You're going to get picked on at school.
Yeah, you're going to have to switch to grocery delivery.
Hey, I like grocery delivery.
Okay, well, I mean, it's one factor of your lifestyle you wouldn't have to change if you injected yourself with the T virus.
I'm already halfway there.
Yeah. Great.
I'm one mutated arm away from being a perfect Resident Evil villain.
I know they're just a video game villain, but it just makes me think, like, what are the big bads doing up in their, fortress all day as they're plotting the downfall of the known world? Are they, like, at some point do they just decide, like, I've done enough sort of, like, menace for this evening, I'm just going to watch something on streaming? They're like, no, I'm going to inject myself with more of the virus, see how many more arms I can grow. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not saying nothing. Biohazard doesn't necessarily sort of hit those notes. It does have boss battles, like I said, and they are sort of grander in scale than some of the kind of earlier encounters with kind of scary people in Biohazard, but that's all you get out of me. I'm not ruining this for anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the only boss fights in that I've seen is it just looks like, a human guy, and he's chasing you with a chainsaw or something.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, that's already pretty scary. You don't need to be a scary monster guy.
Yeah. It does a lot of like brain trippy, like jump scare stuff, like later in the game too. I don't love a jump scare, but I think it has a place in horror. Obviously it's lazy sometimes, I think. But your character Ethan starts to gets a little trippy later on, and you start seeing things in the corner and stuff. And there's some kind of fun stuff that happens there from a spook factor, but inevitably some like big monster shows up and you're like, oh, this guy again.
Well, on some level, that does feel like, a box that Resident Evil needs to check.
Sure. This is a Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
But let's bring us current. What are you playing this week?
Well, I don't know if I'd say it's current, but I played Alcahest, which I talked about as we were getting into the backlog for the last couple of weeks. This is a Super Nintendo game that was never released outside of Japan. And it has a very interesting sort of pedigree, because it was developed by HAL Labs, by a lot of the same team who made the Kirby games.
Oh.
And it was published by Square in Japan. And yet, being the huge fan of Square that I am, I'd somehow never heard of this until just earlier this year. And I thought, well, time to see what this is all about, because one of my favorite things about the Super Nintendo, besides, Final Fantasy is great, but there are all these other weird little, just other RPGs and sort of action-adventure games that were not necessarily as big as Final Fantasy, and maybe, a lot of them never went on to have their own, long-running series. They were just these weird one-offs. But a lot of them were super cool, had really, interesting ideas, through a lot of fun, great soundtracks and, art and everything. So when I learned about this game, I was like, oh, I missed one. Time to see what this is all about.
And is this sort of in the same era as Live Alive?
Yeah, when did that come out? That was 95, I think?
Because that is sort of one of those kind of, not forgotten, but one of those kind of never really localized or translated into English and didn't quite make their way to the US, right?
Yeah, no, it's a very similar situation. Although that one was just more well-known for some reason. Maybe because that one was actually developed by Square Enix, or Square at the time. But yeah, not the case for Alcahest. It surprised me, actually, that this came out so early in the Super Nintendo's lifespan. It was in 93. So I think Final Fantasy II was out when it was coming out in 93. Secret of Mana, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, just early on in the Super Nintendo era. But it's like an action game. For the longest time, I thought, just because of the Square connection, probably, that it was an action RPG. But no, it's more just a very linear, action-adventure kind of thing. It plays more like Zelda than a game with heavier RPG elements. It starts off with just the greatest sort of RPG premise is that the god of chaos, Alcahest, 1,000 years ago, he descended and really made a mess of things. But then he was defeated by some swordsmen who wielded the power of these 4 elemental guardians, and then banished him to, wherever they banished the Dark Demon Lord. And since then, for the last 1,000 years, everything's been great. But lo and behold, sort of this dark star in the sky has started shining again. In addition to that, there's an evil empire sort of rising up and starting to conquer stuff. There's this weird kind of goblin-looking guy who's appeared, and there's a lot of stuff happening in this game. So it's sort of these 3 tentpole RPG plot devices coming together. But mostly it revolves around you as this new swordsman who has to go around and revive the 4 elemental guardians. You can hopefully stop Alcahest from being revived and just making a mess of things. So I was like, okay, that sounds great. What are you actually doing in this
Sign
game?
me up. Let's do it. Yeah.
And sort of similarly to the plot, there are just so many sort of components to the actual game side of this, where it starts off fairly basic, where you have your sword and shield, and you can charge up your sword to do a little spin attack, and then you just are dropped into these top-down stages, which feels very Zelda-like. Your job is just make it to the end, or traverse the entire stage until you get to the boss. And along the way, you will encounter not really puzzles, but in a few cases you have to go to some area, but it's either locked, or in one case there was this cave I needed to go into, but it was filled with toxic gas, so you couldn't breathe in there, so I had to go and find a gas mask to take care of that. And it was kind of hilarious because like when you're presented with these things, like an NPC warned me, like, oh, watch out for that cave because it's like filled with gas and you can't go in there. So I thought, oh, okay, so I'm going to next just spend a significant chunk of the rest of this game, or like the first stage anyway, just tracking down this gas mask or whatever I need to like get into this cave. But it's like, no, you just walk like 20 feet away and there's a treasure chest with the gas mask in it. So I was like, oh, that resolved itself fairly easily.
I mean, the gentleman could have told you that. I mean, he probably knew it was right there.
Yeah.
Why he had to sort of pitch it like it was something cryptic.
Yeah, so it's not quite, like, none of the little sort of puzzles ended up being as involved or drawn out as they would be in a Zelda dungeon, where you're just like, oh, I don't know how to get past this weird-looking obstacle. Maybe at some point in this dungeon, I will find the exact correct item that I need to get through it. And, you know, in a Zelda dungeon, it could be hours before you actually find enough keys and track down the treasure, which has the treasure chest, which has the item in it that you need to complete the dungeon. But in Alcahest, it's so brisk. You're just like, oh, here's a problem. And then you just walk a couple screens over, and then the solution is right there waiting for you to take back to the a couple screens ago.
So is your take on it, it obviously didn't make this game, but do you feel like is it just lazy? Is it unambitious? Is it, you know, just sort of lacking in vision? To what would you attribute that?
No, I don't think it's lazy, or at least it didn't come off that way. It's just sort of, you know, you explored the wrong part of the level first. So it's like you kind of go to one section and it says, hey, you don't have the key, basically. So then you get to go explore more of the level until you find the key and then come back to it. I thought it was going to be more of like a Zelda experience in terms of just how everything played out, but it really is quite quick.
It's just not that game.
No, yeah, it's just a different game than I was expecting.
Gotcha.
Like I said, it's not even an RPG. It's just, you know, there are 8 stages. It's almost like an arcade game. I was thrown at the start because you have your score up in the corner and it says experience next to it. So I thought, oh, after I kill enough enemies, I will level up and then something will happen. I wonder what that is. Like, maybe I'll get some new abilities or something. And what happens when you cross that XP threshold is you just get an extra life so you can continue an extra time and your character doesn't change at all. So that really, you know, sort of made me reevaluate what type of game I was playing.
You're just collecting coins in Mario.
Yeah, you're just Mario. So that was kind of hysterical. But it is still action-based. And there is a lot of cool sort of stuff you can do beyond just your basic sword attacks. You know, like at various points you're joined by different NPCs who each have their own special move. After you beat certain bosses in the story, like you will unlock or you will free one of those elemental guardians. And that's very exciting because then your charge move gets replaced by this unique guardian move, and you can also summon the guardian to do their own sort of like co-op attacks. So there's just a lot going on. And you can switch between the different elements like you would after you've beaten a Mega Man boss. So if you feel like the sword guardian, not the sword guardian, the fire guardian is not working for you, you can just switch over to the water one and see if that is more helpful. Which I thought was really cool because, like I said, they all have their own little charge moves and the little assist powers. And yeah, sometimes you run into a boss and like fire is not doing it, so you just have to switch your element. And sometimes it felt like it was more of just like a tactical thing. I couldn't figure out if any of the bosses actually had like elemental weaknesses or whatever, but like sometimes it just made more sense to use a dash move, for instance, instead of a jump or something like that. It gives you a little bit of freedom in how you approach the combat. But there is just a ton of stuff happening. Like you've got the partner system, you've got the guardians, you've got sort of your charge moves. Another thing I thought was pretty unique is that in a lot of stages on the ground, there are basically little boost pads. And there are jump pads as well that they sort of encourage you to use because whenever you use one of these, or whenever you just use your like dash move, it gives you a huge attack boost. Yeah. So it almost feels like, why would you even use your basic sword attack when you could just be running over these boost pads and just charging into stuff? Then you got your charge move, and like you have all these options. So it felt like you're not supposed to play this like a Zelda game or any other sort of typical action game. So that took a little bit of getting used to, but once I finally...
I'm sorry, what, like a little quicker, a little more arcadey, and a little less...
It was a little more technical than I was expecting, because it wasn't like, you sort of stand back and, wait for you to have an opening. It's like you really just want to be taking advantage of these boost pads as much as possible. The enemies also tend to move fairly quickly, so you do a lot of dodging. It gets quite frantic, especially during some of the boss battles, but I thought it was very cool once I sort of figured out, like, I was probably approaching this the wrong way.
Oh, interesting. It's not quite what I thought you meant when you were describing it, so I was having trouble kind of envisioning it. I'm like, wait, so you just stand on the thing and you get extra power and you kill them? But
no, sorry, I meant like a boost pad, like, you stand on it and it boosts you along the ground, like a dash pad or something.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so a lot of your like powered up moves are tied to like how your actual character is moving, which I thought was fairly different than in Zelda, where you just kind of plant yourself and just smack it with your sword as much as possible. That approach seemed to be one of the least effective like tactics you could use during one of these boss fights, because the bosses are just like flying all over the place and shooting at you and stuff.
So you got to keep moving, nowhere to hide.
Yeah. So pretty surprising combat system. Another thing I really liked is you have this shield, which is like whatever, you have a shield in so many games, but it effectively blocks any attack that comes at you as long as you are not also moving or attacking. So if you're very very conscious of what you're doing at any point, you can block most of the attacks in the game, where they're just like, as long as it's not the boss just jumping on top of you. Like a lot of the projectiles they'll throw at you, you can just deflect with your shield. In fact, there was this other boss it was like another sword fighter, and occasionally he would just run up to me and just start flailing around with his sword, and I figured out, well, if I just stand here and I don't try and counterattack as soon as he does that, I just automatically block everything with my shield. And that was so interesting. It felt a lot like the sword fighting in Zelda 2, because if you're not attacking in that game, you just automatically have your shield right in front of you. So you're either attacking or defending, and you need to know how to like balance both of those things. So that was interesting. Yeah. I feel like in most action games, you have to like use a separate button to pull up your shield, and you go into more of a defensive stance. But in Alcahest, it's like, no, you're just automatically defending, which a lot of the time works out really well because there are just lots of bullets flying around.
Geez, you're so defensive.
Yeah. So took a little bit of getting used to, but after I figured that out, I had a really good time with the battle system. The bosses are a lot of fun, especially since you have all the different attack options. They can get a little difficult, but the game is pretty generous about starting you back at checkpoints, and even if you lose all your lives, you can continue from like a recent point in the level pretty easily. So that was nice. It was not sort of like the 90s arcade game experience where you lose all your lives and you get kicked back all the way to the beginning. Because that would be a nightmare if you just got reset every single time.
Well, you got to keep getting experience and get all those lives.
Yeah. But like I said, I made it through the entire thing. Managed to get through it in just a weekend, and I had a really good time with it. Yeah. It has just the right amount of just like the weird Super Nintendo era weirdness going on. It starts out in kind of this just generic, I guess, sort of fantasy environment. Like the first partner character you meet is this wizard who shoots fireballs, and you're like, okay, sure. But eventually, like you start exploring the ruins of some advanced civilization. So there are like all these like sci-fi looking doors and pieces of equipment around. Like at some point you run into this cyborg who joins you, and like, oh, okay, I guess there's just a cyborg now, but whatever. There's like a vampire at some point. Vampires feel like they're just fair game for whatever reason, but I was having such a great time with it. I just thought, like, who knows what's coming up next? Anything's on the table, feels like.
That's funny. Cool. That sounds surprising. I think I was expecting something a little more kind of traditional, but it definitely sounds unique.
Yeah, well, that's what I like about this sort of era of games, is that everything felt a lot more experimental.
Yeah.
Like it didn't slot so neatly into like, oh, this is an RPG, or this is, a Zelda-like, for instance. You could still make a game that has like all these weird different ideas. And I don't know if they all came together perfectly, just because there's so much happening. I feel like they never really went deep into any of the individual systems. But it was just cool to see so much sort of unconventional stuff all in one place.
You had mentioned earlier, like, what else came out in 1993. So I searched top video games in 1993, and it turns out HAL also made Kirby's Adventure that year. So, they were quite busy. That was a big year for HAL Labs.
Yeah, Jun Ishikawa did the soundtrack, who's also like the longtime Kirby composer. So that was also very fun.
Oh, cool!
In that, it's a totally different tone from the Kirby games. Like those are very cute and like sort of peppy. And this one's not super serious or anything, but it's definitely more serious than a Kirby game. So it was very fun to hear, like, it was clearly the same composer working on the tracks for this. So kind of a similar sound, but just different genre of soundtrack, which is very cool. Like, if you played a lot of Kirby games, I think you'd definitely sort of recognize his unique sound in this.
Oh, that's neat.
I don't really know what he has worked on outside of Kirby. I don't know what other soundtracks of his that I've heard, so just hearing anything from him that is not Kirby was exciting.
I'm sure Kirby's a pretty good paycheck. You kind of stick with what works.
Yeah. A lot of the boss battles in this were just like, okay, well, this is just a Kirby track. Like, this could have been in a Kirby game. But no, it's just, this swordsman's like slashing up a vampire or a dragon or whatever. So that was just cool to hear. So that was Alcahest. Had a surprisingly good time with it. I was a little worried, like, when you go back this far, games can start to get a little rough around the edges. And, to be fair, there were a lot of cases where it's like, well, this could have probably been polished up a little better. But, no, still had a really good time with it. Cool way to spend the weekend if you're into, like, old Super Nintendo games.
So you said this didn't originally come out in the US. Was this, like, a fan translation you played?
Yeah, so it was a fan translation that actually came out quite a while ago. I thought it was recent, but I think it came out in 2002. Somebody put this together.
Oh, wow.
There's not a whole lot of text in the game, so that probably helped. But some of those, like, as simple as the dungeon puzzles were, they would have been a little confusing if they were all still in Japanese, because you would sometimes just go into an area and a text box would appear, and, like, if you couldn't read it, you wouldn't really know what to do. Although, like, 90% of the time, it boiled down to you just finding the treasure chest with the special item in it, and then you can go back to wherever you were supposed to go. I think there was maybe one puzzle which was, like, language dependent, but I think you probably could have just brute forced it. So, whatever. It was nice being able to read everything, though, so shout out to this translation group.
Cool. So I played a game that is certainly not lacking for any text. Persona 5 Strikers. Yeah, it is a very verbose game.
Is it? Isn't it just like Dynasty Warriors?
Yeah, it is. It's Persona plus Dynasty Warriors with just long periods of you and 6 of your friends sitting around a table, like, doing a ton of exposition.
Oh, was Persona 5 like Persona 5 proper like that?
I mean, the Persona games in general, I think, are a little bit like that. But yeah, no, it becomes a sort of especially glaring in Strikers, because sort of my association with these Musu games, these Dynasty Warriors type games, I guess, what are the hallmarks of that? It's generally you against sort of waves and waves of kind of minions with a couple little bosses kind of scattered among them. And you're just doing, sword swipes and wiping out just legions of people in one shot.
Mm-hmm.
So you get some of that. You get a little bit of those in Persona 5 Strikers, and then back to the hideout to talk about what happened and what our next plan is. Oh. And it's a lot of dialogue.
My experience with these is it's always somebody talking during the actual stages. So, like, you're just laying waste to hundreds of guys or whatever the theme is for the one you're playing. And just somebody is like on the radio or somehow communicating with you. And it's always like, oh, there's more troops coming from the north or whatever.
Yeah.
But in between the stages, there's not a lot happening.
There is in Persona 5 Strikers. So yeah, this is it's unusual in this type of game. I think so this is a direct sequel to Persona 5, which is an unusual kind of approach for these Dynasty Warriors type games, and that I'm not an expert at them by any stretch, but the Hyrule Warriors ones that I've played feel like kind of greatest hits. They have like a loosely cobbled together story, usually like a scenario, and it's some construct to get characters from all different types of Zelda games together in one game, and you get a big sword and you just like wipe out tons of little minions. Hyrule Warriors was just you kind of in it all the time. You're running across Hyrule Field, back and forth through the castle, et cetera, et cetera. Again, like you said, over the radio or however somehow people are communicating. Hey, the West Gate is under attack. You need to get over there real quick. And you zip across the field to the West Gate. And just as, 100 little bokoblins storm through, and you just have to wipe them all out. And then quickly another assignment comes in. You jet over to another corner and do that thing. The Hyrule ones were fun because you could switch between all kinds of different Zelda characters. It was a lot of fan service. Persona 5 Strikers, the approach here, though, is that it is like immediately following the end of Persona 5. It is
credits are still rolling.
Well, not quite that immediate. I guess maybe immediately is not the best word. It has been a year. The characters are in the next year of school. Some of the older characters have gone on to college. The people in the Phantom Thieves, the group in the Phantom Thieves, have not seen each other since the events of the previous game. They've kept in touch, but have not been in the same room together. So it's summer vacation, and they're going to hang out and go on let's do a road trip together. Let's go camping and do a barbecue.
Let's go, do a road trip. Kill 1,000 dudes. Have a barbecue. It'll be great.
But as you do, you sort of fall back into old habits. And Joker and the rest of the Phantom Thieves stumble upon some crazy shenanigans happening in Japan. There seems to be a number of people, the first of which that you encounter is a pop idol who seems to have a very weird kind of toxic influence on her most devout fans. So you you do your thing. You unleash your persona. You go into her mind palace, and you try to figure out why she's secretly evil and nobody else can see it. And that is where it turns into a Dynasty Warriors game. And you have tons of little minions, tons of kind of classic Shin Megami Tensei villains storming at you by the truckload. And you wipe them out. You build your team. You could take 3 of the Phantom Thieves with you at any time. You can switch between them on the fly, which feels super fun. All of the button presses and stuff are kind of similar, but it feels a little unique in that they all kind of have different types of weapons and types of attacks that they use. And you sort of do that little high five, and you tag in your buddy, and you switch over to somebody else who has a giant area of attack or a huge axe that takes out villains. Or the cool thing is that it still uses Persona on the fly. So rather than it being kind of a turn-based affair, like in the mainline Persona games, you're really kind of calling them up super fast, kind of on the battlefield. So you'll hold the right shoulder, you'll scroll through your Persona left to right on the D-pad, you'll scroll through their powers up and down on the D-pad. And as you sort of highlight a power that the people on the battlefield, the villains on the battlefield are weak to, they'll start to flash. So you're basically just kind of like scrolling through looking for kind of the biggest area of effect that you can possibly get. And when you've got most of the battlefield lit up, you let go of all your buttons and it unleashes this magical attack that just wipes out everybody in a huge power storm.
Well, that sounds cool.
It is super cool, and it's super fast in a way that the Persona games can be a little methodical, a little step-by-step, a little bit of a nail-biter sometimes as you go through sort of the cycle of attacks, and the enemy takes their turn, and the team starts to get wipes, and your power's really low, and you can't deploy a health pack until it's your turn, which is still 4 steps away. And man, I hope everybody stays alive. And Persona 5 Strikers never really feels like that. It all feels super quick, super efficient, just real kind of fly by the seat of your pants when you're on the battlefield. Conversely, there's a lot of circumstances in between where, like I said, you're kind of hanging out at the clubhouse or wandering around Shibuya, or any number of sort of things that are very sort of common in Persona games that you're doing that are not wiping out giant hordes of monsters. So it feels more like a Persona game than it does a Dynasty Warriors game, which is kind of a compliment, I guess. Cool. Yeah. This could have been a greatest hits. This could have been, hey, all of your favorite characters and monsters from Persona games all here in one kind of greatest hits package, and you just wipe out hordes and hordes of bad dudes. And it's not that. It's much more deliberate. It has a calendar system very similar to all the Persona games, except now you're on summer break, so you're going through the summer months.
Well, it's only 3 months long. That's good.
It's a very condensed timeline, actually, yeah.
But wait, so you have to do 90 stages to get through this thing? That's a lot.
Well, I mean, you have certain. I don't think it's quite that long. I think it's a month.
3 months times 30 days, roughly.
It's only a 1 month summer break. I don't think it's 3 months.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
And some of your days are exploring and getting supplies and making connections. The stuff you do in Persona games where you're you go for ramen with Akechi, so you can sort of increase your bond with him and you'll fight better together tomorrow in the game. That stuff is very quick in this. So much so that they don't really have companions in that way in Persona 5 Strikers, like they do in the Persona 5 mainline game. There's little bond points you get for doing baton passes in combat, or little kind of interstitial things that you can kind of do, dialogue choices and stuff like that, where you get bond points and you can use them for little perks throughout the game. So even that feels like Express. It feels like Persona 5, but faster. Where, the school calendar in Persona 5 goes on and on and on. And some days you have tests, and some days you're in class, and some days you're hanging out after school. And more often than not, it's not doing Persona stuff. And yeah, there's some of that kind of back and forth in Strikers. But all of the non Mind Palace stuff, all of the, just a bunch of teens hanging out doing teen things, is generally a bit quicker than it is in kind of the mainline Persona games.
So are you invested in the story at this point? I know you didn't quite finish Persona 5, but is Persona 5 back? Are you into it again because of this?
Yeah, it has been kind of a cool reminder of what I really like about what I like about these characters. I have sort of the little internal that's my favorite character, and then somebody else will have a particularly funny scene or say a funny thing. Oh no, he's the best character. So I remember in our Discord when Persona 5 first came out, who's the best boy, who's the best girl in Persona 5, and in my brain 5 years later I'm still nah, he's the best girl, or she's the best girl. So yeah, I'm kind of invested in this. It makes me wish I did finish Persona 5 because it is such an immediate sequel to it. There's 2 characters in Persona 5 in Persona 5 Strikers that everybody sort of knows that I know came late in Persona 5 in the mainline game. But in my playthrough of it, I didn't quite get that far.
You didn't meet characters yet? That's crazy.
So there's 2 people hanging out with you in Strikers that, everybody sort of pretends has been there all along. But I'm wait, who's this lady? And Google can solve that for me, obviously, but I missed something. So yeah, there's some cool new characters too. There's 2 new characters kind of added to the team that I really like. You get a little, some more character exposition. The characters are a little more dynamic. Kind of playing as all the other characters is really fun too. Some of them have there's one character who has a giant axe and she's much slower, but has huge area of effects. You can play as Morgana, the little cat character. And he can also turn into a school bus.
Oh, okay.
Just go with me on this.
That's his persona.
That's one of his Persona things. In the mainline game, he actually turns into a bus and you ride around in him in the memories. In sort of the grindy place where you sort of grind demons to be able to level up and stuff like that. That doesn't exist in Persona 5 Strikers, so he just turns into a bus as like a defensive thing. And you can do it on the fly. So Joker will like high five him, tag him into the battle. You're now controlling Morgana, who moves super quick, who is just super lightning fast. But if you hit his little power-up shoulder button, he turns into a school bus, and then you're just driving a little minibus around on the battlefield, just mowing down.
Driving over enemies? That's great.
Just running over enemies. And it's stupid fun.
Seems like that's all you would need.
It is. It's very satisfying because it does quite a lot of damage in a very short period of time, and it does help you kind of reset the score a little bit.
It's like everybody's out there just fighting hand to hand, and then you got the one guy's like, by the way, I can just turn into a tank if that would be easy for people. Like, why don't we just do that?
And a cat turns into a school bus and runs everybody over.
Yeah.
So it's silly, but again, it's sort of fun to sort of rediscover these characters and get back to playing them again. I can imagine somebody coming to this cold and having not played Persona 5 or not been invested in that game at all, being very confused by this.
I played the demo for this, and I just assumed, like, I forget, I don't really know when from the full game the demo took place, but I assumed it was just like a side story thing, like every other Dynasty Warriors spin-off style thing that I've played.
No, it's not. It is, I don't know. I think it's easier to say, so like, it's better than it has to be. But it very much is. It feels very deliberate. It feels well thought out. It feels like, this could say Persona 5 Part 2 on the box, and I would go with it because it feels very much like that. It feels like a very deliberate and well thought out continuation of Persona, except we're not doing turn-based anymore. It's a hack and slash. It's kind of an arcade brawler now. In an interesting way, sort of like the inverse of what the Yakuza games did.
Yeah, I like that. I was just going to say it feels like sort of the switch between Yakuza 6 and 7, where they're like, hey, it's going to be, sort of the same thematic stuff you enjoy from the Yakuza games, but we're just swapping out the battle system this time. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe it's time for a switch.
And I like it. I miss the turn-based stuff. I miss the depth. I used to really not like all of the going to school and taking tests and hanging out with your friends stuff in the Persona games. But I think the mix was really right in Persona 5. In a way that I didn't really feel like I had the patience for in maybe Persona 3. So I do kind of miss it a little bit in Strikers, but it's cool that this feels a little lighter, a little breezier, a little more efficient. Persona 5 is a 100+ hour affair. Strikers is not that. Strikers, I think, according to How Long to Beat, is somewhere in the ballpark of 40. So it has to be
pretty long.
It's still massive, right? I've not finished it. This will not be a surprise to anyone.
It's a lot of them. So
I did put about 10 hours into it last week, though.
Oh, jeez.
I don't do 10 hours of gaming in most weeks, so the fact that I put 10 hours into Persona 5 Strikers is surprising to me. But I'm having a really good time with it, clearly. I would not spend 10 hours with a game I didn't like. So it's cool. It's super satisfying. It reminds me of why I like Persona. It's very stylish. The music is awesome. There's a lot of really fun little moments. There's a fun thing that it does where it sort of pulls into like a 2D mode almost, and you're kind of hopping up girders and stuff like that up the sides of buildings. There is an objective you're trying to get to in every Mind Palace that is a spiral staircase, and the camera pulls back into kind of a 2D view and spins around the outside of the building as your character runs up the spiral staircase, which is very stylish. Rain is falling, the city streets are slick, lights are reflecting everywhere. It's someone put a lot of love into this, and it feels very deliberate. It feels very on brand. So yeah, I give who's this credit? Omega Force is the developer. Put a lot of love into this and really kind of made it fit into the Persona world in a very deliberate way.
That's cool. It makes me wonder if I would enjoy any of the other sort of Musou games that I played if they had taken this approach. Because I played the Zelda one and then one of the Dragon Quest ones. And while it's very novel to suddenly be able to control these characters in sort of a different genre of game, it's like pretty exciting the first few levels. The Dragon Quest one, much like the Zelda one, was, like you're saying, it's just a greatest hits sort of excuse to bring these characters from different games together.
Yeah.
And they don't really do anything interesting story-wise. It's just make up some excuse to get characters to stage 2 after they finish stage 1.
Right. Well, and you're not really even doing, like, air quotes here, Zelda things. You're not,
Right. Yeah, it's just beat up 100,000 guys.
Right. I guess the best thing I can say about Persona 5 Strikers is that for the entire thing, you're doing Persona things. It feels like a Persona game. It doesn't feel like a Musou game. It doesn't feel like a Dragon Warriors. So yeah, that's cool. And it is a surprise to me that is the case, because I think I was expecting it to just be a hack and slash. The Persona, like, karaoke dancing all night games were not Persona games in that way. It was Persona characters, but you were clearly doing something very different. Didn't like them very much. Bounced off of them pretty aggressively. But this is a Persona game.
A story component to those?
Oh, it's all story. It's all story and character interactions. It's closer to like a visual novel than it is anything else.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
I think I have those.
An RPG.
But I was like, I just thought they were going to be a music game, because I like music games.
Yeah, they're rhythm games. But they have a lot of, like, talky character stuff in between them.
Oh, that's weird. I'm just going to skip all that. That's terrible.
Strikers, though, is still very much, it feels like a Persona game.
Yeah, the way you're describing it sounds like it, but you just take out the dungeon crawling and replace it with the hack and slash. It's fun.
Yeah. So I really like this. I kind of wished I had played it last so I could continue playing it, but now I have to play either Spider-Man or Dragon Quest. So I'm going to put this on hold, maybe dip into it a little bit in between. But yeah, Persona 5 Strikers, super satisfying. I'm having a hell of a time with it. It's Sarah and I went over the weekend and got pedicures.
Oh.
So this is a thing that we do every now and then. I like getting a pedicure. And I sat there in the pedicure chair while getting my pedicure with my Switch, just beating up armies of dudes in Persona 5 Strikers. So taking the Switch with me everywhere and still kind of indulging in a little Persona.
Nice.
Yeah. And I do get that stupid thing in my brain that's sort of like, maybe you should start Persona 5 over again. Maybe you should just go back to the beginning and
just start, casually replay Persona 5.
Throw away the 70 hours of progress that you made in that game and just start back at 0. But no, I don't think I want to do that.
None of the re-releases or ports or anything have given them like a fast forward or like boost option or anything?
Not that I'm aware of. I love that it's portable now, and I would love to play Persona 5. I think I have a better chance of finishing Persona 5, the mainline game. Royal is the new version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's portable. Yeah, it is longer. This is annoying too. But it's portable, so I can kind of take it with me everywhere. I mean, I'm not stuck in front of my TV trying to play through this.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. But I need some tool for being able to get my progress off of my PlayStation 4 and onto my Switch. And that tool does not exist, unfortunately.
Oh, what you need is that weird PS5 like handheld thing. The Wii U style thing that everybody's wondering why it exists.
Project
but you can't even take that out of the house. Never mind. You need a PS5 with a really long power cable.
Can I take it to the bathroom?
Maybe.
Can I take it to get pedicures? Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, you know how well that Wii U tablet worked when you got too far away with it.
Got halfway down the hall and you're like...
Can you explain to me what is the deal? There's a character in this who is like one of the original characters. I only know about this because they did a crossover with Dragalia Lost while that was still going on. But it was specifically with Persona 5 Strikers, and there was this character who was like this little girl wearing a hoodie, but like when she put the hoodie on, she got like a robot face. Like she looked like from like Eve from WALL-E. She had like little robot eyes. And I was just like, what is the deal with this character? What is going on? It's like one of my favorite character designs of all time.
Oh. No, I don't know who that character is.
Oh, you haven't met this character yet? Oh, no.
No. There's a character that joined your group late in Persona 5 and is in all of Strikers throughout, and they call her the Oracle. She's your like infotech hacker character.
Mm-hmm.
And she has like big headphones and is kind of cyberpunky, and has her like persona character looks like it's wearing a Tron suit that's all lit up. I wonder if she's who you mean.
It's like
but I've not seen the hoodie
suit.
thing with robot eyes.
She's got a yo-yo.
Oh, that is a Persona 5 Strikers only character.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Okay. I thought you were saying the Dragalia Lost thing overlapped with Persona 5 mainline.
No, it was only a Strikers event, as far as I know.
There's a character that you meet in Persona 5 Strikers who is an artificial intelligence and only exists in the kind of online metaverse thing in the game. And she is exactly that. She has like these, like, I don't know, cyber yo-yos that she throws out. Her little mini game when you're fighting as her is if you can get the timing right and hit the action button as the yo-yos come back to you, it does these huge, like, spiral out area of effects that just wipe everybody out. But yeah, she's cool. She has a giant hoodie that she kind of pulls up and yeah, is this sort of like online digital presence that helps the team.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just very curious because I was like, I definitely not going to play through all of Persona 5 just so I can play the Strikers game, but I'm intrigued by this weird character who is like partially a robot, I guess. So she's an AI, it turns out.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's always like one or two characters they invent just for these like Musou spin-offs. Like there was that weird just like Hatsune Miku looking character in Hyrule Warriors. The Dragon Quest one had just two like of the most generic Dragon Quest protagonists. I don't really know what the point of that was. But this character seemed very cool. I was like, wow, maybe I should play Persona 5 Strikers.
There's two in Strikers that I believe are new additions. And they fit right in. I think they're, again, somebody clearly had the Persona Bible and was really sticking to it on this because all of this kind of feels like it works. And feels super deliberate. So yeah, I like the new characters. Her, she's great. The other one I really like too. So yeah, I think they're good. They definitely feel like, eventually you get to a point where like the Persona 5 team is like now 9 people, 10 people deep, and you're like, this is a lot of characters, guys. We really need to tone this down. But it's good. It all feels like sort of value added.
Well, I wonder if that was the plan all along. It's like we're gonna do a very like narrative heavy continuation, rather than just doing like a pure spin-off kind of thing.
It will be interesting to see if and when Persona 6 comes out, is it these characters still? Is it a direct sequel to Strikers somehow?
It can't be, right? It's got to be a restart on it, right? I feel like we've had
the Persona games.
Persona 5 has been around for so long at this point.
Yeah. I mean, those characters at this point, though, are so iconic with the series. I mean, how do you do I don't know, if you're Atlas, how do you do another Persona game that doesn't have Joker in it?
Well, they did 4 other ones without Joker in it.
That has been the history so far, as each of these has been a reboot, essentially. So, I don't know. I'm interested. There's Tactica. There's the tactical Persona game that comes out this fall. That is kind of all these characters remixed. It is, Joker and everybody, but cute little chibi bodies.
Yeah. I think, Persona 5 just came along at the right point in the, just like, I don't know, in the series, in sort of like wherever gaming was at, where it really just landed better than all the previous ones. So I think it's been really unusual that they have done all these spin-offs.
Yeah.
That they did the Dragalia crossover, all that stuff. But I'm pretty sure 6 is going to be just a fresh start.
And then maybe, either they move on from Persona 5 or they continue to do sort of like little spin-offs, I'm
sure they'll do like at least one more Persona 5 thing. It seems like they just can't get enough of it. Like even when Persona 6 is out, they'll probably just have Persona 5 characters cross over with 6 at some point.
Sure. That'll inevitably be the DLC, I'm sure.
Yeah. You gotta put on another one of those dancing games.
There's the Persona Q series too. Those were 3DS games, and those were the cast of 3 and 4 initially, and then 3, 4, and 5 together in a single game for the second Persona Q game. And the first one was better. The second one was less good, but those are fun, and it's sort of an interesting way to kind of keep those characters alive and continue to sort of, rekindle interest in them, I think. So, yeah, I think Atlas has tons of little avenues to be able to keep Persona 5 alive. It will be interesting to see, to keep the characters from Persona 5 alive. It'll be interesting to see them hopefully start from scratch with Persona 6.
Yeah. Is the Tactics game also a story sequel, or is that going to be a spin-off? Have they said anything?
No. It would be interesting if that is the sequel to Persona 5 Strikers.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
I'm not sure. I don't know right exactly. It's the freshman year in college, right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they're going with that. I'm not sure if they've released enough details, or if they have. I just haven't consumed them. But that is this November, I think. So we should be finding out sooner rather than later, I imagine.
Well, I'm sure you can squeeze in another 30 hours of Persona Strikers before then.
I got to get there. I do want to play the tactical one. That sounds fun. I like tactical games.
Yeah.
I don't think I've played one since, what was the last tactical RPG I played? It's been a while.
Probably like Rabbids or something.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe they'll do a Persona Cross Rabbids game.
Persona Cross Rabbids, Cross Mario. I don't know.
Sky's the limit.
I hope not.
You hope not? What? Okay, well.
That's a lot.
Cross that bridge when we come to it.
So, Persona 5 Strikers, big thumbs up. I'm having a good time with it. Onward to the next thing.
Cool. Just reminds me that I've been sadly neglecting my Persona 3 game. I should get back on that. Just replace the next 2 weeks of the Backlog Attack with more Persona 3. It would be terrific.
I would just carry this into September. I don't think there's a new release that I'm dying to play until late September. So we can add 3 weeks onto the Backlog Attack. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, he said it.
It's all Persona September.
That might actually help me make a dent in the rest of the game I have left.
All right. Well, let's table that. We'll come back to it. But maybe we're on to something here.
All right. We have a couple backlog updates from people in the Discord.
Yeah.
People are making some good progress. Arcasa has been steadily moving through the Great Ace Attorneys, finished episode 4, and almost completed her Class A license is Burnout Paradise, which it's been a long time since I played that game. I don't remember which order those licenses go in, but there was a lot of stuff to do in that game, so I'm sure that's substantial.
We do have a video game music channel on our Discord, and Arcasa has shared the fact that she can't get Guns N' Roses' Paradise City out of her head for the past week because you hear that song a lot in Burnout Paradise. So she was sharing that in our music channel as well, and now it's stuck in my head. Thank you.
Nice. Rescarino finished Tinykin. You're a fan of that game, right? That's like the sort of Pikmin style game.
Yeah, yes. I played the demo for that. I've never actually played the main game, but it is very much a Pikmin game. Yeah, it's you with a small little army of dudes who help you achieve things. And that was a lot of fun. I do want to get to playing the rest of the game. Rescarino says it's on the Game Pass for the rest of the month, so I don't know if I'll get to it before it disappears. But if you need a Pikmin check out Tinykin.
You just blasted through Pikmin 4 already.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, Eshin. I can't believe he's doing this. He says he's finished the main storyline of Final Fantasy XI. So, 4 or 5 expansion packs to go, I think.
Oof.
Just determined to get through this entire thing. I don't know how long the main campaign in 11 is. 11 is the other MMO.
Oh.
I have made several attempts to play this game. Did not get anywhere near, I was probably still in single-digit percentages in terms of progressing through the storyline, and I played many, many hours of that game, so I can't even imagine what this involves.
How long to beat says 85 hours for the main story.
Well, yeah.
If you'd like a completionist playthrough, 721 hours.
Okay. That's good, because, 722, that's too much for me.
No matter how you scale it, that is a lot of video game.
It's a lot of games.
Yeah.
700 hours, I believe, is roughly 1 month worth of video game. Don't ask me how I know that, but so that 721 hours figure is very interesting.
That's a lot.
Anyway, people making good progress in their backlogs. You love to see it.
If you're playing along with us, trying to clean up some games from your backlog, definitely go to VGHangover.com, get a link to our Discord, drop right into that Backlog Attack channel, and update us on your progress. Tell us how you're doing. We'd love to cheer you on and help you get across the finish line on whatever your gaming objective of choice is for April. Nope, August. It's not April.
Well, I mean, it depends. Maybe you're still playing stuff from April. Who knows?
Maybe you're listening to this in April.
Yeah.
Next April, not last April. That'd be weird.
Not last April. Yeah, that would be weird.
Defying time and space to listen to Video Game Hangover.
Some people, I mean, who knows how some people listen to this show.
Yeah.
See, that's why this show is great, because I can just talk about games that came out 30 years ago. And people will tune in, apparently.
Sure. It's pretty timeless.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right, let's wrap this thing up. What's next for you on the Backlog Attack? Where are you going next?
Oh, this is going to be an interesting one, like I was hinting at earlier. I'm going to be playing Armored Core 3. Well, who knows how this is going to go. I'm less optimistic about being able to get through this entire thing than I was about Alcahest and certainly Wolfenstein. But I want to see what Armored Core is all about, so we're going to give it a try. And
is it also 720 hours?
I don't think it's that long, but okay. I've not completed many FromSoft games. In fact, I've not completed any FromSoft games, so we will see how it goes. I'll be streaming this like I did with Wolfenstein and Alcahest this Friday, so if you're interested in just me stumbling through Armored Core, be sure to check that out. The info will be in the show post.
Nice. I don't know what I'm going to tackle. I have Dragon Quest left, and I have Spider-Man Miles Morales left. I'm not sure which one to jump into next. I better get it together.
What did you end up playing Dragon Quest on? Are you doing it on the Switch?
Most likely do it on the Switch, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you could play both. Get a head start on Spider-Man, do a little Dragon Quest on the side.
No, because I also want to play Persona.
Yeah, well, that's... that would be a problem.
I just ruined this for myself now. All right, well, tune in next week to find out how I navigate this dilemma.
Yeah.
If you need any more Video Game Hangover in your brain, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And don't forget, you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. You can also join us on Discord. You can chat about your backlog attacks. You can chat about other video games you're playing. What else? Music, movies, all kinds of fun stuff. One of the members of our community has gotten me obsessed with Monopoly Go, a portable game on my phone, and that has been a dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you're doing that too, you can join us on Discord and we'll commiserate together.
I can't believe you play Monopoly over Dragon Quest on your phone.
I'm going to play all of them at the same time, like simultaneously. Like phone in one hand with Monopoly, Switch in the other with Dragon Quest.
See, that's why you need one of those Resident Evil additional appendages. So you just have all these consoles going at once.
There it is. The patented Resident Evil additional appendage. Available at a store near you.
Oh, it was just so he could play gacha games.
Yep. But join us on Discord to deal with all of that stuff. There's a link to that at VGHangover.com as well. And subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. Maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show too.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Help us grow the listener base, rope more people in for the Backlog Attack. It's terrific. We want to give thanks again this week to Fear of Dark for our intro and outro music. If you'd like to hear more of his work, you can go to fearofdark.bandcamp.com. Send him a few bucks. That would be terrific.
Lovely. We'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is TJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
600 episodes. Woohoo!